Well, good evening. It is July the 3rd, 2024. This is Wes Fryer sitting in the backyard with Shelly Fryer, and we are going to record episode 27 of Wes and Shelly Share. Set the scene for us, Shelly. We're hearing cicadas, I think. What are you seeing and hearing besides cicadas?
Well, it's dusk. So, because I know that because our outside lights just popped on. Wes has our fence lights that pop on at dusk, and it's really nice. Yes, we are outside having a pinon chimenea fire, which I love. It is a little warm, so it's a little toasty, but it's beautiful. I've seen a few fireflies, and I can hear a mockingbird amidst the cicadas. We really haven't had loud cicadas like different parts of the country, but I am hearing a few now. But anyway, it's gorgeous. There is no wind, and there are a bunch of tree limbs around because Wes worked really hard in the yard today, taking down some tree limbs, and we have to deal with those tomorrow. But anyway, it's a beautiful July 3rd evening, and we're feeling grateful.
So tonight's going to be a little bit different. We are going to actually do a podcast that Shelly needs to do for her church committee. And so the assignment is to reflect on her dreams for our church, Caldwell Presbyterian Church in Uptown Charlotte, North Carolina, and dreams for our community, and then the Church Universal. And so we kind of talked about that a little bit, and we're going to talk through those. And the focus is to get Shelly's ideas. I will probably share some as well. But then we'll have halftime. And when we come back, we're going to talk about The Chosen Season 4 and kind of keep with a Christian focus. And if you're not familiar with the amazing television series The Chosen, it is one of our favorites. And last night we just finished episode 8 of the 4th season. So, Shelly, tell us a little bit about your committee. This committee is called Discovery and Engagement. Tell us about your church history, Shelly. What have you done before? And then Discovery and Engagement. Yeah. So tell us a little bit about this committee, how you came to be on it, and anything you want to say about your past church experiences.
Well, Wes and I have been a member of Caldwell Presbyterian Church for the last 2 years, almost 2 years. And this is actually the first official committee that I have said yes to being on at Caldwell, Wes says. I have taken my time and tried to be very prayerful about getting involved because I want to make sure that I have the time to really do a good job with whatever I'm doing. And Wes and I were actually asked to be on this together, but we have decided to split up. He's going to go on and do a different committee, and I'm going to do this one. I'm excited about the discovery and engagement because I think we'll know when we start answering the questions, but I think it's something really good to think about and to process. Discovery, both inside and outside the church. I think Wes and I have, in education, we talk about inside and outside sharing. And I think that it's going to be important, in the next year, 2 years, 4 years, for us to be a place of discovery, discovering what we believe and discovering what's in our community and discovering people that need to find a home. And then engaging people in the life of a community, of belonging. And so I think this is a committee that I believe in and feel like I can, make a contribution. Yeah, make a contribution and use some of the skills that I have about getting out and talking to people.
So Shelly has really been the spiritual leader of our marriage for what? That's been a long time. That's,
7 years?
Yeah, 27 years this year. Shelly served as an elder at our church where we met, and she grew up at Westminster Presbyterian Church in Lubbock, Texas. And she was on staff there as a volunteer and then as a quarter-time employee, and then came on full-time. We moved to Oklahoma City in 2006, being the coordinator of nursery ministries. Childcare ministries, yeah. Did that for 7 years. And so she has a lot of gifts and has always been the more, I would say, spiritually attuned person. I've been playing catch up. And anyway, tonight we're going to ask her these questions. So, Shelly, what are your dreams for Caldwell Presbyterian Church, especially as you think about discovery and engagement?
Well, number one, I want to be representative in our community. We've just, through Sunday school, been learning about Caldwell and kind of its history and the ways that it is incredibly unique. And I don't want it to be unique. I want Caldwell to be mainstream. I mean, and in that, I want all churches to be open to God's love and to accepting people and to be engaged in justice work and to be loving and inclusive neighbors to all people. I don't want Caldwell to be unique in this. I really would like Caldwell to be an example of helping people rediscover what it means to be a Christian and what it means to love others and what it means to show love to others, and to truly talk to and to truly listen, to be an example, to be a light on the hill. I don't want to be hiding under a dark cloud. I don't want to, I'm thinking of this little light of mine, by the way, if you didn't get my references, but I do want to be a beacon, for those who need to be seen and need to be heard and who need to know that God loves them.
I know that we are called to build community and to live in community with others. And one of my dreams, and I'm not on this committee, but I'll be supporting one of the committee members a lot, is to really find ways that we can build community. I think there are so many wonderful things about our church. One of the hallmarks is when we pass the peace, and it just kind of breaks into this massive kind of love fest of seeing people, both people we know and meeting new people and passing the peace of Jesus, but welcoming. We are a radically welcoming congregation, and like Shelly said, I think both of us would love for that not to be radical. That no matter who you are, no matter how you identify, no matter what your skin looks like, the beauty of God's world, the diverse human beings that we have been created to be, we were created to live in community. So I hope that the Caldwell community in a multitude of ways will find ways to build community both inside the church and outside the church. We were talking earlier, and we'll talk about this as we talk about the community, but we can't just serve ourselves. We can't just look inward. We have a wonderful, wonderful gathering hall called Hope Hall. We can't just stay in Hope Hall. But I think that there were a lot of reasons that we felt drawn to Caldwell and why we wanted to join. And we are so thankful that we are a part of this congregation. We live in a scary time, and if we cast our eyes on the culture, I think we'll be scared. But if we cast our eyes on Jesus and we focus on loving other people and supporting our community and building community and inviting and welcoming others into that community, then I think we can, live our lives without fear. We're not called to live in fear.
Yeah, 100%. And also, I think my dream for Caldwell is to take Caldwell outside the walls of our church, to be present in our community. I think that's one of the next questions, isn't it?
Yeah, what's your dream for the community?
So my dreams for our community and the community where Caldwell is to get out and be known and to get to know others, to be seen, not just on Sundays, but, throughout the week. I had a lovely conversation with a friend of mine at church, Felicia, and she and I were talking about some ideas, and how wonderful it would be. We're getting ready to welcome 21 people into our community, and I want them to feel safe and to be welcome in our community, and not just a community of Caldwell, but the community around. We just our church is in an urban area, and we're surrounded by a hospital and restaurants and a school, and so how wonderful would it be that when we walked into a pizza parlor or the ice cream store, oh, there's Caldwell. Oh, yeah. So that when our neighbors are in the area and they're associated, oh, well, I live over here at Easter's home at Caldwell. Oh, yeah, we know Caldwell. I was just thinking we could have an ice cream social, and we could go. There's a wonderful little ice cream store just right up the street from our church. Why couldn't we all go and have an ice cream there and, regularly have church meetings or just fellowship opportunities in our church community? I just found out through another organization that I'm in is that we have a mother in this organization who has preemie babies, and they've been in the hospital. We're right there. We're right there. How wonderful it would be for our community to go over to the hospital and just, share a card. I don't know. I think putting our committee together to just brainstorm some ways that we can be in community, not with just ourselves, but with the area around our church, would be a wonderful thing. We have a beautiful park. How many times have we walked down to the park and had any kind of event in the park? We, at our family retreat, had a wonderful round sing-along with guitars and songbooks. How wonderful would that be to just walk down to the park right behind our church and have something there and welcome others? I don't know. I just think discovery means we need to discover the community outside of our church, and we need the outside of the church to discover us, and then we need to engage them in that relationship, not for the sole purpose of say, hey, would you kind of come and join our church, but just, hey, we see you, this is who we are and this is what we do, and you're always welcome, or not.
When Shelly says we're going to welcome 21 new members, well, it's 21 new guests. They're not going to be guests.
Neighbors.
They're going to be neighbors, 21 neighbors. So, like many churches, we have property and buildings that are not fully utilized, and we have an old education wing that has been shut down. I guess it was opened and used, but it was very old, very decrepit, and it's being completely renovated and converted into 21 efficiency apartments. And we're working with our nonprofit partner, Roof Above, in Charlotte. In fact, we need sometime Shelly and I will reflect here about First Fridays, because we've been going, this will be our fourth time, to go serve a meal at the Levine Men's Shelter, operated by Roof Above in Charlotte. And so Roof Above has a lot of different shelters, emergency shelters, transitional shelters, permanent housing. And so Easter's Home is our church's project, which is going to be permanent housing. So 21 single adults who previously were experiencing homelessness will not be experiencing homelessness, because they will have permanent housing. They'll be able to live in these efficiency apartments as long as they want to. And this is a really big deal, and it is something that we're going to be living into as a church community. It's going to be challenging, but it also gives us an opportunity to really demonstrate how the blessings and affordances that our church has had and that privilege has given. I mean, one of the things we start every service with is an acknowledgement, to acknowledge that the land that our church was built on was unjustly taken from Native people, and also that a large sum of money that came from chattel slavery from the Caldwell family, I think that had a plantation north of Charlotte, built the sanctuary that we are in. And we acknowledge that, and we, repent of those sins, and we, commit to do better. We commit to do better than our ancestors did when it came to some of those things.
Church Universal.
All right. So yes, Shelly, what are your dreams for the Church Universal, not just Caldwell, not just our Charlotte community?
Well, Wes and I kind of wrestled with what Church Universal means. And I think we're looking at what Christianity is becoming and being, and I think we're in very difficult and trying times right now as Christians. Oh, we have a helicopter going over. And I think what I would like to see for Caldwell as it joins the Church Universal is to maintain integrity in Jesus' teachings about loving our neighbors, loving each other, welcoming, living in community, taking care of each other, following Jesus. And I do not want to reject Christianity, but there are some parts of it that I don't know. It's not Christianity. What is it? Help me with this.
I won't read it, but I was sharing with Shelly today. I had a pretty extended interaction on Mastodon, which is one of the social media places I'm sharing these days instead of Twitter. And it was actually somebody who responded to a Bible verse and picture that I had shared. And they were very negative about Christianity and the directions that the mainstream evangelical church has gone politically. And I think what Shelly is getting at is that we have people today using the name Christian, but not apparently being guided by the Holy Spirit and, spending a lot of time in their Bible and in prayer, seeking to know Jesus Christ and follow him. And so we're not going to delve into politics and polarization, but we are saying, I think, that the Church Universal, there are perceptions, and I don't know what the real statistics are, because with social media, there are, people with outsized voices that I think are louder than is representative of the general population. But there are some big perceptions that Christians and Christianity, Christians have lost their way. The church has lost their way because it's othering and it's hating and it's, judging, and it is nasty and it's ugly. And so that is not the church. The Church of Jesus Christ is a place of community. It's a place of love. It's a place where we find common, where we humble ourselves, we encounter God, we encounter Christ, and we, strive to live and follow him. And I think that what you're saying, is that the church, what is perceived as the church universal, has become really ugly in many people's minds. And the church that we are a part of at Caldwell is an amazing, beautiful, wonderful, aspirational, loving church. It is the church I want to be a part of for my whole life, and I want to help, grow into something even more beautiful and just, anyway, that's not what people think of when they think of the church universal today.
So I think that's where I was going with, I don't want Caldwell to be unique in that mission. I want to share that mission and that calling and that challenge to other churches to be the church of Jesus. So, all right.
It's halftime. And after halftime, we're going to come back and talk about The Chosen Season 4.
Hey there, North Carolina. Are you ready to experience a funnel cake revolution? It's time to meet Friar's Funnel Cakes, where tradition meets taste and deliciousness is just a bite away.
Created by two passionate school teachers, Friar's Funnel Cakes isn't just about satisfying your sweet tooth. It's a story of family, dedication, and a sprinkle of teachers' love in every bite.
Imagine a warm, golden funnel cake dusted with the perfect amount of powdered sugar. And wait for it, you get to drizzle as much or as little chocolate syrup as your heart desires.
Got an event? Want to bring some joy to your gathering? Friar's Funnel Cakes is ready to hit the road and bring our sizzling sweet sensations to you.
Don't just take our word for it. Here's what one of our satisfied customers had to say.
Well, I thought I'd had a good funnel cake, but, when I had one of them Friar's Funnel Cakes, it just set a new standard in taste and excellence. It's a game changer for sure.
So, what are you waiting for, Matthews? Head over to our Facebook page at facebook.com/FriarsFunnelCakes and let's make your next event a deliciously memorable one.
All right, we are back. As we are laughing, Rosie, our youngest golden retriever, is having a really fun time with this frog that is jumping all over the yard, and she is just falling around. I don't think she knows. I don't think she knows what to do with it. Rosie, what are you going to do with that frog? All right, we're going to talk about The Chosen. Shelly, what is The Chosen?
Wow. It is an amazing interpretation, I guess, of the Bible. It is really, it is Dallas Jenkins' vision of Jesus, the life of Jesus, really. And it is so well thought of and planned and portrayed. It is
Entirely crowdsourced.
Yeah, entirely crowdsourced. So it's not funded by any big corporation or movie mogul or anything. It is a series. I kind of look at it as, they're taking some relationship and nuance, but it is grounded in biblical gospel. It is the gospel. It is sharing the gospel, but it's doing it in a way that helps you to really connect with it, and to connect with the disciples, and to connect with Jesus, and to connect with his followers, to really connect with the miracles, to connect with him in a very real way. So I think I kind of see it as, you have the NIV and you have the King James Version. This is just a visual version of the Bible.
Okay, so since Shelly has told a little bit about what The Chosen is. We're going to reflect a little bit on season 4. We actually have had some different interruptions tonight, phone calls and things like that. But if you have not seen The Chosen, we are going to, this will be some spoilers. And if you haven't seen season 4, there'll be some spoilers here, because we're going to talk about things that just really stood out or were highlights for us in this season. You can, just Google The Chosen. I think their website is thechosen.tv. They've just parted with the studio that produced the first 3 seasons. And like Game of Thrones, in a very, family-friendly version, they're doing 7 seasons. That's what I understand the plan to be of the life of Christ. And then I think next season, season 5, I think it's going to be the crucifixion. It's Holy Week is where we ended. We ended right before the triumphal entry into Jerusalem on Palm Sunday for Holy Week. And so I suspect that with season 6 and 7, we're going to, have depictions of the Acts of the Apostles and, the birth of the early church that is documented in the New Testament. But I'm going to pass this to Shelly here in a second to talk about some of her highlights from season 4. Overall, The Chosen, they parted with Angel Studios, who distributed their first 3 seasons, and so now they have their own app. Before they were inside Angel Studios app, now their app, like on your iPhone or Android phone, is just called The Chosen. But you can access the episodes all for free. As she said, it's crowdsourced, and so there's no Hollywood backing, and it is such a phenomenal humanization of the characters of the New Testament. Not only Jesus, but every disciple. And I think we each have our personal favorites that we just love. And, as Shelly alluded to, they have taken some poetic license, extending, some scenes and putting some interactions between characters that are not biblical. But the vast majority of this is explicitly biblical. And I believe that all of the additions that they've made to the biblical narrative, to the gospel narratives, are very much in the spirit of the gospels, and they really enhance the storytelling. So I totally agree with Shelly that this is like a video interpretation of the Bible for the 21st century. So, Shelly, what stood out for you in season 4? And spoiler alert, if you haven't watched season 4, we're going to talk about stuff that happened. So you may want to go watch it before you listen to us.
We'll try not to. If you've read the Bible, you kind of know where the story's going. So, I think my favorite part about watching The Chosen is just the connection that you're able to make with the disciples, getting to know them, and kind of how the whole story fits together. I think my favorite character is Matthew. And I think because I've seen so much growth in his character, and in humility, and how he has continued to grow as a person, but as a follower and a believer. I love the interactions. One of my favorite scenes is Peter, who is Simon. So for most of the show, we know Simon, and then Jesus calls Simon to become Peter, the rock. And that was a big pivotal scene. And a lot of the disciples didn't really know what that meant when Simon was now Peter. Simon had always had kind of a leadership role within this disciples group. But anyway, but there was always some kind of difficulty between Simon and Matthew, because Matthew was a tax collector, and Jews hated tax collectors, and they had a really difficult relationship. And finally, Jesus was like, you got to deal with this. You need to see him and forgive him. And Matthew was called to forgive Simon for the mistreatment that he had given him. Anyway, it was just two characters who were so polar opposites, really, in personality and And yet they have this conversation where they forgave each other, and they love each other, and they hugged each other, and they saw each other as true partners with Christ and brothers with Christ. I think that was one of the more powerful. I mean, there's a lot of powerful episodes, but just seeing that relationship grow and change was one of my favorites. What about you? Did you have a favorite character or moment?
I definitely love Matthew's character and Simon as well. I love John the Baptist, and this season 4 opens with scenes in I think it's the first 2 episodes of the end of John the Baptist's life. If you remember what happens, he is put in prison. He calls out Herod for sin, for living with his relative, right, or marrying his relative. And he's put in prison, and eventually his wife gets their daughter to dance for him. Someone dances for him, and then the mother of the dancer says, tells her in advance, if you dance well, then he'll give you anything you want. And she dances well, and then, he says, what do you want? And she says, the head of John the Baptist on a platter. And so John is killed. I love the depiction of him. I like how the episodes, almost all of them, this last one was a little bit different in terms of it was going into the future instead of the past, but many of the episodes start with a flashback to the Old Testament, to Abraham, to King David, to these different scenes and these different characters that we know from having read the Bible, and how Scripture is being fulfilled. And how Scripture is being fulfilled, and the connection, right? Because this is a really important thing to understand, that the Bible is one complete narrative of God's people. And it continues. That's right. Shelly's interjecting here. I need to give it back to her. So anyway, I really enjoy and appreciate that. And I loved how, the relationship, because John the Baptist and Jesus knew each other from the womb, because, when Mary went to visit Elizabeth, Elizabeth's baby jumped in the womb when, she heard Mary's voice and recognized, and, they were both conceived by the Holy Spirit. And so, I don't remember the name of the character who plays him. He looks so different without his long beard and, long hair and everything. But I love the passion of John the Baptist, and I've, connected at different times in my life with this message of preparing the way of the Lord.
That's what I was going to say. Yeah. And I love how he knew his mission. He knew he was there to prepare the way for the Lord. He knew, they were cousins, and he knew his role. He knew. That's right. He knew who Jesus was, and he knew what his role was in preparing the way. And yes, it was beautiful. This last episode that we just saw last night, we saw the last one in season 4, was Jesus riding in on a colt into Jerusalem for the Passover. And they have just come from Lazarus' house in Bethany. And
Lazarus was raised.
Yes, Lazarus was raised from the dead. And just the ripples of effect that is causing. And the disciples are still trying to put the pieces together. They all fully believe that Jesus is the Messiah, and they have for a while, but they're still not quite understanding what Jesus is telling them about what is to come. Yeah, what is this, one very interesting character in the last few episodes is Judas, and watching the arc of Judas and what's going on with him. I think we both, the interpretation of the raising of Lazarus was powerful, because both Wes and I, we've always considered that a very joyous occasion. Well, it was very pivotal and just foreshadowing of what is to come. And wow, it just was really something to think about.
Well, one of the big things that is highlighted by all of the miracles of Jesus, because many of his miracles are depicted, healing the blind, the woman who touches his garment and is healed from her bleeding that she's had for years, the leprosy, there's so many different miracles. And as the disciples are living with Jesus, roaming essentially the countryside of the Holy Land, they're living as his disciples, learning from him, watching him, and then also being sent out by him. He sent them out, and he granted them powers, to heal in his name. God is not a vending machine. Jesus is not a vending machine. Jesus tells us in his word that if we ask for something in God's will, that he will grant it. But part of the mystery, which I don't know if you've experienced this before, but I have, is, sometimes we will pray for something and that prayer is not answered, or we don't think it's being answered. It's not being answered in the way or the time that we want it to be answered. And so this is what really comes out in the scenes with Lazarus, because there are disciples who have limps and ailments, and they depict a character who's not in the Bible, but the Bible does reference more women traveling with the disciples. And one of these big fundamental questions is, why does God allow for suffering? Why does he allow for death? Why, Jesus had power over not only the ocean and the weather and the entire environment, but he had power over life and death. He raised Lazarus from the dead. So why would Jesus not intervene in these different situations and trying to understand that? And ultimately, I think sometimes we just don't understand it. But it's really an incredibly powerful depiction, and I'm sad that it's done. And for this season, season 5 is being filmed, and I think that we should make a contribution, even if it's a small one, to contribute, because they're all totally free. You do not have to pay a penny to watch them. You can watch them on any device, your Apple TV, your Roku, your phone, your computer. But we were introduced to this in Oklahoma City through Father Tim Sean Humans, who is our head vicar or priest at Cassie School, at our Episcopal school, and we had chapel, and just loved being able to participate in the chapel life there. And he introduced that in chapel talks with students, and then I don't know if he did for the Wednesday morning chapel that we would go to, but anyway, I'm just so thankful, and really there's not that many people that know about it here. So I'm leading Sunday school at our church Sunday, and I'm going to have an excerpt of The Chosen. I've got with Shelly, we'll figure out how we're going to tie this into the book chapter and share it. But I really encourage any of you who have not seen all 4 seasons to do it. I mean, and then do it together and reflect on it and share. It's really been a good experience for us, and it really, and our children too. That's right. We were watching season 4 with Rachel when she was home a few weeks ago. So, any other thoughts that you have about season 4 or about The Chosen?
No, I just really encourage people to watch it and see it and give their feedback. Come and see. That's right. Come and see. And choose to be different. Get used to being different. And that's kind of a big takeaway.
All right. Well, you may be finding this in a different place than our Facebook page, because maybe we'll share a link to it. Shelly's going to share a link, but my Facebook account was suspended because I posted on a dormant EdCamp page that hadn't been active for 4 years, and basically AI decided I was, I guess, trying to pretend to be somebody I'm not. So I am off of Facebook, and all the pages that I created and didn't share with others have disappeared. So hopefully you are still finding us some way, and we still have Shelly's website. So you can go to shellyfryer.com/podcast, and we've got it linked there. You should be able to, because we're publishing this with Anchor, go to, anywhere podcasts are. Goodness gracious, our dog just responded here. Must have a raccoon. That was exciting. Anywhere podcasts are shared, you should be able to find us. And so please, give us a rating or a ranking on Apple or Spotify or whatever. Share us. We love doing this, and it is a valuable thing for us to process our lives in the empty nest as we are continuing to get used to having our children living apart from us. But it is wonderful to be here in North Carolina, and as I'm sure, that you can gather from what we've shared, we love our church family. We love Caldwell. We are so thankful for the opportunity to be a part of this church community and to, continue to pray that we'll be used by God to love others and to serve Jesus and to serve him everywhere we can, and specifically, within our church at Caldwell. So if you have feedback for us, you can reach out to Shelly on Facebook. You can also, if you really want to reach out to me, you can go to westfryer.com/contact, and I've got some options that are there. So Shelly, we end the show by giving our slogan. So I think the beginning of it is, we haven't done it in a while. Stay curious.
Go outside and have adventures.
Keep exploring. Until next time, take care.
Wes and Shelly Share is a weekly podcast recorded and published on Sundays by Wesley and Shelly Fryer of Matthews, North Carolina. Learn more and find links to connect on social media to Wes and Shelly by visiting shellyfryer.com/podcast. Content on this podcast is licensed under a Creative Commons Attribution Only 3.0 license. The Wes and Shelly Share podcast is recorded and published with Anchor and distributed on all major podcast channels, including Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Google Podcasts, Pocket Casts, and more. Please share our show on social media and tell others about us. Let us know on Facebook or via other means what you like about the show, that you're listening, and if you have any suggestions for future episodes. Stay curious, go outside, and keep exploring.